Hello there. 8th of March is International Women's Day, but here at Plus TV Africa, we are dedicating the whole month to some amazing women. In partnership with Tech Cabal, we are having one-on-one with ladies in technology to understand how they have managed in a male-dominated industry. Let's start with this interesting conversation with Toyin Oshinowo. Toyin Oshinowo is co-founder at Fieldinsight. She is a product management professional with 8 years experience and has a passion for product development within the Nigerian tech space. She has an ME in computer systems engineering and a PhD in engineering from the University of Warwick. In 2014, she was the product lead for the Nigerian Stock Exchange website redesign project. She talked about battling sickle cell, understanding your financial value, and importance of data. Let's have a listen. It's really exciting to do this conversation, or to have this conversation with you, because I stumbled on a video you did talking about your experience, your pain with sickle cell.
Yes.
Now, that is one of the, should I say, the issues I'm very passionate about, or I like to talk about. You know, sometimes I talk about the things I like lending voices to, and people ask me, how can you relate? And I just say, I can't relate. Just let it be, you know. So do you want to share a bit of it, and how do you cope with being in tech? I mean, that's another challenging career that you have, but you're doing this and doing this well. So how has it been for you?
So the sickle thing, it's weird because I've been doing it all my life. I don't really know any other way of doing it. It's interesting because my life is unpredictable. One day I'm getting the work done. The next day I'm floored and I have to spend like a week in bed, just with pain and everything. So it adds some flavor to my life, which is interesting. And then I decided to go into an industry that doesn't have a lot of women at all. Needless to say, on a global scale, black women, because I just wanted to make things more interesting in life. It's tough because there are a lot of underlying things that we as women have to deal with. And being in Africa, there's also the cultural aspect as well. Simple things like your value, your financial value to a company. I've been in situations where even though the policy is everyone is the same, when it comes to the water cooler conversations, guys would be like, why are you asking for more pay? You are going to live in your father's house until you get married. You don't need to get a house. You don't need to buy a car. A guy will take care of you. And it's not about that. It's about my value. It's about my skill sets, what I bring to the table, and how much you're willing to pay for that. All the other stuff, it's not relevant. It's excuses. So there are a lot of things that I've had to deal with. And one of the key things that I learned is waiting for somebody else to solve the problem is never going to work. So that's when I decided I'm going to leave the corporate world, I'm going to do the startup thing, and I'm just going to find my own path.
Okay, I know they say being a woman is expensive, but I heard you say being you is even more expensive.
Yes.
So how expensive is that?
So with the sickle, what tends to happen is you have to go to the hospital. So in countries like the United Kingdom, where you have the NHS, you basically go in, you don't pay for prescriptions, you don't pay for anything like that. When you go into hospital in a country like Nigeria, for instance, the bed, the pills, the drip, the stuff that they use to set up the drip, you have no idea how long you're going to be there. And it's not the same as breaking a leg where you fix it and you know at the end of the day it's done. I've had situations where I have gone into hospital, I have left, 12 hours after I've left, I've gone back. And it's been like that maybe on a two-week notice. I've been in hospital like 3 to 4 times. The bills add up. So on the medical side, I'm very expensive.
Okay, so you've worked mostly as or on the managerial level in your career. I mean, from the banking industry to where you are now as the VP and the co-founder, So what do you consider as key factor when you have to make sure your team work together, understand each other and focus on that common goal? What is that key factor?
So the main thing is communication. And I think that's where a lot of things can go wrong. As my my fellow co-founder would say, you could say A, but another person would hear B. So for me, it is constantly communicating with my team, be it verbal or be it written. There's the other thing that I have, or I try to keep in mind, is the ego stays at the door. You do have, with developers are a very unique creative breed. They think they know more than you, the individual who's telling them, no, this is not right. It can get confrontational. And I think the best thing is to make sure that the doors of communication are open on both sides. So where I'm saying this needs to be done, I also need to listen to hear what the developer is telling me so I understand their perspective. So I think the major thing is communication.
Okay, so let's talk about your personal life and how you've had to deal with discrimination. Because for you, I mean, we all know there's discrimination for gender women.
Yes.
And then you have the discrimination. I think you're one of the few that is very comfortable to say that sickle cell is a disability, because
Yes.
you said that and you were very clear. But I've had people and I've had conversations or arguments where they say, no, you can't say it's a disability,
Yes.
But you're very clear with that. So looking at it from the disability angle and being a woman and then being in tech,
Yes.
let us into your world of discrimination, because I'm not even going to ask if it happens or not.
Man. So a lot of these things, it's never intentional. And the term I would say is microaggressions. It's never intentional. It's not a full-blown, because you're this, you cannot do this. But people's mindsets then kind of allow them to say certain things, and that kind of beats down on a human being. So when it comes to things like, Toyin, you can't do this, you will fall sick, you've not given me a chance to basically say whether I can or cannot. Mm-hmm. You've already determined that. It's about having a conversation to take back that power, but not being aggressive about it. Because at the end of the day, they're coming from a side where they're thinking they're helping, but they're not. Because the best person to know whether I can do anything or not is me. I have 38 years experience in this game, so I know. When it comes to discrimination along the sides of gender, it is about actually being extremely stubborn, but again, not being too aggressive with it. You have to stand your ground. I've had experiences where I'm explaining to somebody, this is not going to work for whatever reason. And I've had situations where, one, why are you talking to me about this way? Respect yourself, fool. Or, you're not technical enough to understand this. And sometimes it's best to lose the battle, but win the war. Which is part of the reason why I decided I'm not going to work for anybody. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to make partnerships. I'm going to get myself in a situation where I don't necessarily need to answer to anybody who doesn't understand me and where I'm coming from, and who doesn't appreciate me for who I am, as opposed to my race, my gender, my disability. So it's about figuring out how to make things work. It's about standing your ground, but also not being a terrible person about it.
Okay, so let's still talking about discrimination, there is this popular opinion, or as far as I'm concerned, I would say unpopular opinion, saying that women can be emotional when they are making decisions that has to do with business and not necessarily their emotions, like managerial decisions, logistic decisions. They can bring emotions into it. Have you found that to be true, to be the truth in any way?
It's funny, men emotionally react.
Okay.
They just emotionally react in a different way, but they still emotionally react. I've been in meetings where it is very obvious that you are emotionally reacting and making things difficult, and you're a man. But for some reason, when a woman does it, oh, she's being a woman, oh my God. But when a man does the same thing, everyone sits down, maybe grumbles a little, but take it as fact. I don't think there's a difference. Maybe the delivery is a difference, but I don't think there's a difference.
Okay, so what future do you envision for technology ecosystem in Nigeria, say in the next 5 years?
So for me, I think data. My company, our focus is collecting data, being able to make predictions with data, being able to determine, okay, say for instance, I sell rice, right? And I want to figure out where I'd be able to make the most money. Based on the data that has been collected over the 5 years, I can then say, okay, this week I'm going to make sure a certain portion of rice, the majority of it is going to go to this state, because based on past data, they seem to need a lot over this time period. So right now we're in this situation where everyone is collecting big data. Everyone is talking about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and everyone's trying to figure out, how we're going to make this work. And I think in the next 5 years, that's when a lot of this is actually going to be implemented, and we're going to cut out a lot of inefficiencies.
Okay, so we're counting down to Lagos, Women Lagos exhibition,
Yes.
and we're excited about this, and you're part of it. So I need to understand why you're excited about it and what you think this type of exhibition can do for young girls that want to come into the industry.
Okay, so I was interviewed a couple of months ago by a newspaper in Nigeria, and the questions that came to me almost kind of alluded to the fact that the argument was there are no women in technology, which to me was a fallacy, because even if you didn't go to university to learn technology, there are individuals who are working in the technology space, be it finance, be it HR, be it all these other things. The key thing for me is the fact that there is no publicity. Everyone's doing their work in silos. We don't know each other. I think for guys, there is that element of the bros, where it's like, this is what I do, this is what I do. There's a team spirit. Women are not necessarily that teamy. So there isn't a space where we can celebrate ourselves and say, these are our achievements, this is what we do, this is how we contribute to moving forward. So the idea of having this platform, first of all, showcasing all the women that are in tech right now, inspires our girls to say, okay, I can take, STEM classes, and I can go to university to learn how to be a developer. And my first thought is not, am I going to get married type thing, but how can I be self-sustaining to facilitate me partnering with somebody and moving on with my life? There needs to be that emphasis of, you have a brain, you are smart, you can build and create within technology.
Thank you so much for joining us on Plus TV Africa, Toyin.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back. This is Plus TV Africa, and we are still celebrating ladies in tech as part of marking World Women's Day. Each time I have to say her name, the popular Nigerian wedding movie comes to mind, and I smile. Ngozi Madueke Dozie is the General Manager, West Africa for Kwesi iFlix. She is an experienced professional in the technology, mobile, and entertainment ecosystem. Prior to joining iFlix, she served as the Consulting Country Manager and Business Development Director at Viacom Nigeria. She also served as the Growth and Partnership Manager for West and Central Africa for Facebook. In addition, Ngozi has worked as the Geo Marketing Manager at MTN Nigeria. She holds a BSc in Management Information Systems and Decision Science, as well as an MSc in Systems Engineering and Engineering Management. She maintains that there is more age and marital status discrimination in Nigeria than gender. Let's watch her conversation. Thank you, Ngozi, for joining us to discuss women in tech. I mean, this month is a beautiful month, and it's highly important to have these conversations. So you've worked with Facebook, you've worked with MTN, you've worked with Viacom, all on managerial level. What are the core traits that has kept you going and have brought you this far?
Me as an individual, right, going from company to company. Well, I think it's the why not, right? I was at MTN, and I started at MTN as an analyst or an officer, so like a level 2 is what they call it. And then I became a manager. And then I saw this opening at Facebook, and it was really, why not, right? I was comfortable, I was happy at MTN, but I applied for the Facebook job and I got it. And so I started doing that. Similar, I'm there and I'm enjoying Facebook, and another opportunity comes up at Iroka TV, and I'm like, oh, why not? And each time I moved from one company to the next, it was a bigger job, it was a bigger portfolio. And so instead of asking myself, well, why should I apply for that job? I'm like, why not apply for it? And I think it's me questioning or having the audacity to ask myself, why not, is what has kept me moving from role to role, and then seemingly also climbing the ladder in one way, shape, or form.
So these movements, from what you just said, they are deliberate.
Oh yes,
So what do you think about being part of an organization and looking at it as family and saying, okay, I want to be in this organization to move it from point A to point B? Like, does that limit one's ability to move up in the industry?
So I think you always look at it from different points of views, right? You can, and there are people that join companies and they move from department to department or different roles and functions. I think it always has to be symbiotic in the sense that I'm giving to the company and the company is giving back to me.
Okay.
And I think that whenever any of these opportunities present themselves, I ask, is this opportunity something that will expand me or kind of stretch me even more so than the current role that I'm in?
A male-dominated industry, I mean, I don't want to say sadly so, but yeah, it is. So how has the experience been working with men in the industry, and then have you experienced any form of discrimination?
To be honest, not in any specific way that is not cultural, if that makes any sense. I think what I faced more coming up was just age, right? You hear things like a small girl like you, or you would hear people would comment about, and she doesn't even have children. Those kinds of things are the things that you would hear, because I think that we equate those things to how big you are, or how much you would know. The interesting thing about technology,
or how much respect you command.
How much respect you command, exactly. The interesting thing about technology is that it's normally the younger folks anyway, and so I find that whenever I walk into a space just believing that, Ngozi, listen, people are going to have their assumptions about you, whatever it is. It can be your accent, it could be the way you made up, it could be anything. And when I walk into a space, I know that the words that come out of my mouth count, right? People are listening to see, well, how did she get here? And so you always have to come to the table with all your guns loaded.
Okay, so what advice would you give let me put it this way, a girl child or a young lady that wants to be in the industry, technology? What advice would you give them? What would you say, this is what you should look at, and this is how you should behave, or this is how you should grow your career?
So I'm a mother of 2 girls, and I say this to both my kids and to my nieces and to everyone, really. I find a lot of times we are so distracted by the pursuit of perfection. A lot of times, a woman wouldn't put herself forward if she sees a job description and maybe there's 10 things that are in the job description, the requirements for the role. If a woman doesn't have maybe 9 of the 10, they're like, oh, I'm not good enough for this role. Meanwhile, our male colleagues might have like 4 out of the 10, and they're like, this role was made for me. And so I say to the women that I come across, old and young, because I think it's something about us women, You don't have to be perfect, right? You look at the role and you say, well, can I do it? And can I learn on the job? And what makes me great for this role? And you go in gunning for that role with all confidence. We have to be okay with failing. And I say, put yourself forward. If it's something that you want and something that you think you can do and you think you deserve, then put yourself forward. What's the worst that's going to happen? They tell you no. But then you've gained the experience of whatever it is, the interview process or the trial process. You've gained that knowledge. I always say that men, I think, are more prepared for these kinds of failures, because even from growing up, right, as the man that would ask you, do you want to dance or do you want to go out, right? And so if you say yes or say no, they're just used to that. Women, we're not used to rejection, I don't think. And so we want to be perfect for the world because it almost limits the possibility of rejection. So I think we should get comfortable with failing, right? And then when you're comfortable with failing, you put yourself out there more. And you'll be surprised how many times you actually succeed.
Okay, so right now you're playing in the media industry.
Yes.
And you're playing big, actually, because it's Kwesi iFlix is more like the future. So when we're talking of media, how would you say the technology would affect media in the next 5 years?
So one of my favorite images that I use in my PowerPoint slides shows people watching at a concert. And if you look at people watching a concert or participating in a concert 10 years ago, you're probably just sitting there and clapping and watching. Now, what are we doing? We're sitting there, we have our phones and we're recording, right? We're recording ourselves watching the concert.
Basically, we all have content.
Exactly. We all have content. And so I think in this media space, there's a lot to be said for user-generated content. One of the things that we did at Kwesi iFlix during the elections that just passed over the weekend was that we asked people that were on the street, that were going to vote, just to take pictures or take videos of them voting, what's happening in your ballot, in your polling unit. And that was massively successful, right? Because we are all generating content all the time. So I think several things are going to happen. User-generated content, as YouTube already shows, is going to be key to success. And obviously, mobile is the future, right? In Africa specifically, the ratio of TV sets to mobile phones is going to be 1 to 5 by 2020, and these are GSMA numbers. And so anybody that is in content now is thinking about content that can be consumed on mobile. And I think that is just where we are now when it comes to media.
Okay, so in improving the media with technology, for women playing in this field, how well do you think they can cope, and what do you see, or what do you hope to see for women in technology in the next 5 years?
So women in tech, women in media, I feel like the one thing is not to typecast, right? You have amazing women coders, you have amazing female producers and directors and script writers. And so I think that almost back to the first thing that I said about the audacity to put yourself forward, the audacity to fail, is that have the audacity to put yourself in a position that you're not comfortable in, right? As opposed to the stereotypical typecasts. I think women will gain a lot from going outside the box, right? And I can't wait to see that many more women producers and directors and CEOs. That's another thing I realized when you look at all the tech companies, a lot of women in tech, but how many women CEOs do you have? I think it's also the fear of failing. So I would be a fantastic COO, right? Because then if it fails, then it's really the CEO that failed, isn't it? But female founder is a little tougher to find, and I think it's also that fear of failing.
So who inspires you in the industry, outside the industry, in Nigeria, outside Nigeria?
To be honest, I'm inspired by everyday women. I get this question a lot, and your typical answers, and these are amazing women, would be like a Michelle Obama or an Oprah or a Mrs. Awoshika. And these are all amazing women, but I am actually inspired by you don't know these women in totality, right? You know about them. The women that inspire me are women around me, right? My sister, Ruby Onwudiwe, my sister's in-law, Adesoa Dozie, Aisha Dozie, Ifi Dozie, real women that are, I don't know if I can say this, that are kicking butt in their workspace, in their industries. and are holding it down at home. They're amazing mothers, they're amazing sisters, they're amazing in-laws, and somehow they're able to juggle all the balls and look amazing while they're, while they're killing it in the workplace as well. So those are the women that inspire me, real women that I see every day that are in the struggle.
Are there women that are not real?
Fair enough. So, well, real to me, right?
Okay.
As opposed to the image of somebody or, the idea of somebody. These are women that I know and I know their stories. So that's what I mean.
Okay, so we're counting down to Women in Lagos exhibition, Tech Women Lagos exhibition very soon. And I would like to understand why you're excited about it and why you've decided to be part of the project.
I'm excited about it because I think they're taking it from a different angle. I like their theme, audacity. I think I've used that word several times, even in this interview, because it's a different angle. It's not just talking about women and the pay gap and women and men industry. It's like, no, okay, fine. We already know those things exist. But that aside, let's talk about women and what it would take. And I think audacity, which I think is their theme, is an amazing start because it speaks to all the things that I have mentioned that I think are some of the reasons why there is this gap, notwithstanding everything else that exists in the ecosystem. Sometimes I think it's just the audacity to step out and the audacity to fail and the audacity to, to not succeed. And those are the things that sometimes keep us within our box as opposed to stepping out of the box.
Thank you so much for joining us on Plus TV Africa. I hope you learned something because I did. Stay tuned to Plus TV Africa as we bring you conversations with some of our favorite women in technology. This is also a friendly reminder to do something special for the amazing women in your life. Don't forget to follow us on Plus TV Africa on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa. My name is Elsie Godwin.